Welcome to episode 246 of Silver Lining for Learning. It is September 2025, and two of our co-hosts have vanished. Chris Didi and Lydia Cow have other things going on and will not be joining us, but we are joined by the ever-dependable Curt Bonk and occasionally available Yong Zhao, and I am Punya Mishra, and I am glad to see you both. I can't believe it's been 5 years we've been doing this. And yeah, so what's going on? So Curt, start with you. I think you just got back from your run. So what's new in Indiana, apart from weird governmental politics, which we will not get into?
Oh, you don't want to hear about that part, do you? And I just deleted a Facebook post I made, so the powers
Yeah,
that be might be looking up that post. I don't know.
yeah, no. I think we are called Silver Lining for a reason because our goal is not to focus on the gray clouds, but always on the silver lining. So let's look at the silver
But
lining where
you
you're
know,
sitting at right now.
you know, I get my kicks and giggles from all the people I meet around the world who end up popping into Bloomington and just sitting in my classes. We'll talk about your high school students here in a little bit, but I always believe in an open world philosophy. And so anyone who wants to show up in my classes, they could be a truck driver or, a postal clerk, whatever, anyone's kids, their students bring their kids, anyone's welcome. But I'd say for the last almost 10 years, I may have had 250 visiting scholars sit in my classes. Sometimes I have more visiting scholars than students. Last semester included, I had plenty more. This semester, I've got about 6 to 10 of them in a class with 16 enrolled students. So I don't have more visiting scholars, but I have maybe roughly, a third of the people. What's interesting, we can't require students to come to synchronous Zoom sessions like this. So, I miss teaching face to face. It had been 5 years since I had taught a face to face class. So I do these Zoom sessions with guests every week and all that. But we can't require it. It's part of our doctoral program. So who shows up for these things? The people who show up are wannabe students who are applying to the program, our former students who have left the program, our visiting scholars who are currently here, our former visiting scholars who have left Indiana but want to come back and connect, and then friends of all those people. The number six of all the people that show up are current students. The current students don't show up. They
That's
watch the
hilarious.
recordings, and the ones who ask questions typically are the visiting scholars who are usually professors from China and Korea and Taiwan and Turkey and Pakistan and other parts of the world. And so it's almost like team teaching with all these visiting scholars, chatting about, it's almost like another Silver Lining for Learning episode. I'm running a parallel Silver Lining for Learning every week, although we don't call it that. We record the sessions. We have people show up, and I ask, I might even put their articles into Chat PDF or Chat GPT and have the AI come up with questions for the guests. But we typically don't even get to the AI questions. We have so much to talk about, and all that. So it's a different way of teaching. You think, your parents think you're teaching at Indiana University. My parents are dead. So my brothers and sisters think I'm teaching at Indiana University, who my students are. Well, yeah, I have 16 enrolled. I don't see them. I mean, and so I have incentivized it this semester. I say, okay, we have a discussion forum. And I'll talk about AI in a little bit about how I use AI in my courses after you guys talk. So we have discussion forums. I say, okay, you show up for 10 of those synchronous sessions, any 10. You don't have to participate in the discussion forum. You don't have to reflect on the articles. You don't have to read the articles every week. So that's the way I'm incentivizing. More people are showing up now. The students are showing up finally, but not a lot, but some are, to avoid probably more than half. I would say more than half are showing up for their 10 required sessions. So students, I hate to use the word busy, but have fulfilled lives. And you have to incentivize them, unfortunately, to show up for what we used to take for granted, coming to class and talking about the articles read. Everyone does the readings and all that. Today, I wonder what the students do. I really do. Are they doing anything. You know what I mean? And how do we hold them accountable if we can't require them to come to these sessions face to face? What do? You end up assigning them all sorts of stuff that you got to grade, and that's impossible. It's impossible. You'll die if you have to grade all that stuff. So it's a bit of a quandary today. It's not like it used to be, but it's in some ways it's more fun because I'm talking to other adults in the room, teachers, professionals, or wannabe professors, and they have really interest. They want to come. It's volition
Yeah.
for them to show up. They don't have to be there, and so it's happening both in the online class and in the face to face. The face to face, definitely, I'm getting more students, more people in the room who are not signed up than the ones that are signed up. Makes for an interesting dynamic, and it makes for a challenge how I'm going to teach the class when I don't know how many are going to show up, right? And so, anyways, maybe I'll
Yeah,
stop
that's interesting. But
there.
I think this ties back to Zhao, some of the questions you ask, which is about what is the purpose of this whole thing, of this game that we are playing. And if you see it as a game that you got to check some boxes off and then it's optional, then that's not a box that you need to check. So you don't need to show up, right? And the ones who are showing up, like you rightfully said, are the ones who want to be there. And so I don't know, Zhao, if you have any thoughts on that, and then I can talk a little bit about this class that I am teaching right now. I mean, I'm
Well, why
actually
don't you
doing
talk about
two.
your class first, and we'll go on next.
Yeah, so I teach, this is a class actually I designed back at Michigan State called Education by Design. I don't know, I've taught it like I've been teaching it forever, but it's been changing over time just because technologies change and things change, my thinking changes. But it's broadly the course is about bringing a design perspective to A, the world, and B, to education. So to look at education as a designed thing. So Melissa Ward and I, over the years, we developed this sort of a framework where we talk about that what are the spaces within which design happens in education. It is things, everything from artifacts. So you're designing, let's say, a textbook or an app or whatever. So the chairs and tables in the room, the architecture of the space. So the next is like processes. So these are like lesson plans and assignments and all that kind of stuff, which is about the things that we do. But those two are not enough. You have to think of it in terms of the experience that the student has, because you can tell if there is somebody who you can give two people the same content and you're going to get very different experiences that the students will have. And then beyond that is looking at broadly systems and culture, that those are also things that are deliberately designed so that we exist in a system of the Carnegie unit, which is seat time. And now, as you can see with online and COVID and all of that, those constraints seem to have gone away. And so what does seat time mean anymore? What does 3 credits mean? And the Carnegie unit is a great currency for academia because you can do a class in community college or an AP class and transfer it. But it's not a measure of learning. It's a measure of how long you put your butt on a chair back in the day, whatever that means. And so that's the broad framing of the class. And every time I teach it, we do a lot of reading around design theorists and so on. I trash talk IDEO's design model because they took a beautiful complex thing and made it into like 6 boxes. So, I have my pet peeves, which I throw, but every semester it changes in terms of what we do. Sometimes students act as a design team to solve a like a real problem. I go out and find people who have a challenge and I say, okay, let my student take a pass at it. Other times it's different. So this time when I was teaching it, I initially in the beginning of summer didn't have enough students. I was like, oh my God, I don't have enough students. So I always promote my class because I want a class like this really benefits from having a random mixture of people, like, people from design school, from communication, from engineering. They just come in with different perspectives. It's a lot more fun. And so I advertised it heavily. And then I got a chance to go visit this Levitt School, which, we talked about in the episode on ASU Prep, which is the school which is in this building right next to my former College of Education building, this place called Payne Hall. One half of a floor is the school with 50 kids that just started. So they invited me to come and talk about whatever I wanted to. So I came and talked about like these ambigram designs I do and their connection to mathematics and how fun it is and random stuff I play with. And then at the end, I said, I'm teaching this class. If anybody's interested, you can join. It's Thursdays from 9 to 12 through the semester if you can come. And then I found out 4 students wanted to. And then I was like, dang, I have 4 high school students, but I need an adult in the room who's used to working with the high school students. So I reached back out to the school. I said, is there a teacher who can come with them? Because, these are minors and I am not equipped, like technically or otherwise, to do that. Turned out one of the teachers was in our EDD program. So she signed up for the class. So now here is the teacher in the school in a group with a student who is in another context, one of the students. And now, but in this space, they're equal. And then I reached out to the enterprise technology people. I said, you have all these students who work for you. Don't you think that they could like gain something from this class? So I got one undergraduate student who is actually getting paid to be in my class. He's not signed up for it. He's getting paid because that's his job. That's part of his professional development. I got 11 students of UX masters design, all from India, which is also interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of Indian UX design students at ASU. And more than half of them are from the state Smithas from Maharashtra, which is even funnier because I can crack jokes about them because I'm allowed to do that. Then I have 4 PhD students from the Teachers College. I have 2 PhD students from Music Ed. And I have 2 clinical faculty from my college who wanted to come in and be a part of it. And I said, you can't just be, we are not a fishbowl that you can come and observe. You have to be a full part of this. And so they are full participants. They are doing the readings, they are doing the homework, they're doing the assignments. So I have a 25 people class. And the other best part of it is that I don't teach it in a regular classroom. I teach it in a open space. There are couches, there are standing desks. It's just, it doesn't, it's open. People are walking by, there's construction going on. That's where I teach. I just have a big screen where I put up my slides or whatever that needs to be put up, and that's it. We just are in the public, and I love that. I love that. And so it's one of the I did this last semester in that same space for creativity class that I taught. But this time I took it up one notch where I have high school students to people who are faculty members in the same space, all equal in every shape or form. And like whatever assignments I give them, I do them as well. So if I've given them like a no coding activity, that's what I've been working on this morning because I want to play with it as well. And so it's a pretty flat structure. I have, of course, more say in that space than the others about what we do and so on. But beyond that, it's interesting. I mean, is it perfect? No, of course not. But is it something that keeps me happy? Very much. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
what's going on.
it's like Punya, remember the course we taught in Michigan State? It was with faculty and students.
Yeah,
It's kind of
but there the difference was the faculty there were came in with their projects.
right,
Here,
yeah,
here
yeah.
they don't.
They
Here
have
it
no
is like
relationship here,
you
right?
know,
Yeah, yeah.
and I have a whole bunch of like different kinds of assignments that I have them do. They're usually very open-ended, creative assignments. They have one assignment that they do over the semester, and then we do a showcase at the end where everybody's invited, and that's sort of the structure of it.
Well, I mean, it's actually, I was thinking about, what's really worth teaching nowadays. It's so Pune, I mean, you are teaching really more of a way of looking, a way of thinking,
Yes,
a way of
absolutely.
behaving, a way of
Being, I say
examining.
this
I
is a
mean,
way of
really,
being in the world.
yeah, it's a way of thinking, and that is it's quite needed in this age. So I was wondering, like Curt, since you're talking about your course, so what are the students who signed up? Why did they sign up? Is it a elective? Or is it a required? What is it you're teaching?
So I'm teaching a couple of things. Learning
No, the
environment
one you were
design is
talking
in the
about, you had a
yeah
lot of visiting scholars, previous
yeah
students, but not current students. I was
yeah.
curious about that.
So my learning environment design course now is what I'm doing, but it was a spring that I was referring to. In the spring, I taught learning and I taught emerging learning technologies. And so, of course, AI is in it. So that's one factor. That's why a lot of people are attracted to it. But that's not the only course. I'm when Punya was talking, I was reflecting back on my instructional strategies courses, creativity, critical thinking class, collaborative learning. I had once 15 students and 30 visits, 30 people in addition. mostly Fulbright scholars, because we had a Fulbright program here. Had 17 countries in the room. We had foods of the world at break time. Everyone's bringing in food. It was a community, but that was a Saturday class. That's something different. It was a 5-hour class on a Saturday for 8 weeks, as opposed to traditional 15-week classes. So that's also something that's attractive to people, to have things in bulk. The way they call that Netflix. You watch it in bulk. The same, you can learn in bulk as well. We're moving to an age where what do we call, not cram, not bulk. There's another word for it, where you watch a lot of
Binge.
Netflix. Binge learning, binge learning. I think we're going to move to an age of binge learning, right? Because students don't have time, and when they do have time, they want to attend to it and focus and learn something. So a course that's
I
active
like
and
that.
engaging, on a Saturday when no one else is in the building, you feel like you own the building. You can bring in foods of the world and put it out in the hallways, and no one's going to touch it. It's a really cool experience. And they got all these people from different countries. So part of it's the content, part of it's the culture, part of it's the way the instructor sets it up to be an open environment where anyone can contribute and add to the course. But I was fortunate. Indiana had a Fulbright program for award-winning teachers from 8 different countries that were, for about 4 year span, that they were showing up in this class. Anyhow, they had to sit in 2 classes, and they all picked. A lot of them picked this class. So part of it's the class. What's the content? If it's an AI content, they're attracted to it. If it's instructional strategies, they're attracted. They can use the stuff. They can use the stuff. It's not just BSing all for 3 hours. They're actually learning something they can adapt to their own needs in the long and short of it. So yeah, it's kind of a
Well, so if you put all this, sounds like you guys are having fun, good time.
yeah.
If you come connect our episodes, I was really very interested in the prep school, the ASU prep. That sounds really, really flexible. Pune, I hope we can get them back to talk more about how they did it. I mean, so if you think about the courses you guys are teaching, I mean, university faculty has a lot of, academic freedom. You can do whatever really you like. So far, okay, may change tomorrow, but anyway, so far you can do whatever you like in your course. I was just wondering, also the summer camp last week, we chatted about that. I was thinking, you guys talk about binge teaching, binge learning, whatever, you can have a course. Punya, remember early on in at Michigan State when we first run that online master at PhD in ed tech, remember that? And we
Mhm.
had a kind of binge learning in the summer, right? Like a
Yeah, no,
week.
I mean
Yeah.
the I've always done some version of that. So in the Masters in EdTech program, we would get people in for 2 weeks, either on campus or in Ireland or Galway or in Traverse City. I did the same format in Chicago. So in Chicago, people would come in Wednesday through Wednesday for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
after that, we would do everything online. And those 2 weeks are critical. And also, not doing Monday through Friday, but doing Wednesday through Wednesday is also critical, because you get a weekend, you get 2 weekends in between. If you go Monday through Friday, and we are doing a lot from 9 to 4, people are exhausted. So you need those. So I've learned over time how you can design that sort of binge learning, and you have to keep people moving. You can't be doing like discussions for like 3 hours. No way. You know,
So I've always wondered this. In high school, for example, or middle school, can we just teach English for a month, then let all other teachers go on vacation, then another month for math, another month for science and the social studies? What do you think? Do you think that's possibility? I mean, I think might be better learning, right? You just immerse in one subject for a month.
I don't know.
Well, well, there was a school that tried that in the 1980s in Massachusetts. They basically redesigned that, and students seem to like it more. It's a small school model. They want to do it. I'm just curious. I'm
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would the thing I would rather do is, instead of just doing one, I would do pairs or triplets of things. So I would do English and history, something, right? So you
yeah,
could do
yeah,
math
no, but
and
a combination. But you wouldn't necessarily do like 1 hour math, 1 hour
oh
English,
yeah,
and
that's the
yeah,
worst. I mean, I taught undergrads for the first time after many, many years after coming to ASU. And I'm telling you, the 50-minute class is the worst design thing ever. By the time you settle down and get people warmed up, it's already 10, 12 minutes gone. By the end of the class, you have to start summarizing and talking about what's coming up next. That's another. So you basically get 30 minutes of instructional, like any kind of interaction time. I'm not even saying instructional, right? So it just lends itself to my telling a lot to them.
Yeah, yeah,
Right? Now, this class that I have, it's 2 hours and 45 minutes.
yeah.
We go through 5 or 6 things. They come in, they share examples of good and bad design that they've seen in the world. Then we have the readings, and I always try to have them build something at the end of the reading. And then they go work in their small groups. They're always mixing. 3 hours gives me time to do that. I would actually
Well,
like 6 hours, like
because
what you
what
were
we're
saying,
talking
Kurt.
about is really how do you structure time, and
Yeah,
which is
we have
part of
sliced
the
and
grammar
diced
of
it.
schooling that has never changed,
Yep.
right? I mean,
Yep. The,
like, so if we can change the time of how you organize, another thing, actually, I was doing some
totally.
research on this 2 years ago, is there are many rural schools in the U.S. that have gone 4 days a week.
Yep.
They've gone 4 days, rural and small city schools, and there's no impact, and that impact on student test scores. So what does that mean? That means basically we don't need to send students, they have to on a bus for an hour or 2 hours, get to school and then come back. So there's no reason for that. And well, that's, before COVID. And now with the COVID, do you think all those rural schools can basically say, forget about it? We're not going to do this. We're going to teach math, in this way online and concentrate on math. I think there are some higher education doing that. You remember they do a 3 month of heavy teaching coding, then you go on break. Just you're there, not work for 8 hours a day, work for 10 or 12 hours a day. I think there's a lot of shifting in terms of time change.
I agree that the time piece, I definitely agree. And that goes back to Kurt's thing of like doing it over the weekend or something that way. Those can be extremely powerful experiences. So the one that we used to do in Chicago or the one on campus, the summer 2 weeks, you come in at 9 and you leave at 3:30 or 4. That's an intense day and you just get an hour off. But you get so much done and there is so much engagement and it's participation and things, people working in groups, and we used to do these little activities so that you're always, it can be actually be quite transformational, though that kind of a structure, and then you follow it by we used to do a year-long remote. It's fantastic.
Well, yeah, if you think about the summer camp last week we talked about in Beijing, we had to
Yeah,
design really for more than 12 hours of activities.
yeah, yeah.
Other than their 8 hours of sleep, you have to design the whole day
You have to design the whole
because
day.
that's whole entire experience.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, the Chicago one was great because we go Wednesday through, so Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you get a weekend, then you go Monday, Tuesday, then the Wednesday in the middle, we used to get Second City to come in and do improv in the morning. And so these guys would do like improv around science and
That's
learning or
from Michigan
whatever,
State or ASU.
Michigan State, right? And then the afternoon we would go to the science museum because they would give us there's free passes for teachers. And so there was this one day in the middle where you've been doing a lot of work, and one day which is like it's just completely open. When you come back on Thursday, you are a different person because you have moved away, like you've done a lot in one direction and then you've sort of just like let it go. And when you come back to that again, it's different. And the second week feels very different from the first week because of that break in between. You just don't go bang, bang, bang. And so that gives you that having those 2 weeks is a huge luxury. And you have to build a good team to lead it. I was very lucky in that I had a really good team with me there. But it's maybe the best teaching I've ever done is that program in Chicago.
So, but
Fantastic.
maybe in the future, all kind of learning should be structured as summer camps, intensively on some topic, and
Yep.
then you go take a break, then you come back to do something again. That would
Yep.
be quite interesting. Kurt, I didn't mean to Punya and we can go on forever, but I want to make sure you can jump in.
Well, I tell my students, my co-learners, that I don't teach classes anymore. I hold events.
That's
Every
nice.
week's an event with a different guest coming in or activities that we do. I don't know if I do present from time to time, but less so than I used to. So it's really more about, happenings. It's almost like I'm holding a mini colloquium series,
That's awesome.
or like this weekly podcast show. I told you, it feels like Silver Lining, but in a class mode. You know, I'm wondering, Young, have you written a book about time or thought
I've
about
written an
writing a book?
article about time. I would just been thinking it's in prospect, and that's really trying to talk about how the time completely based on the research on rural schools, cutting down to 4 days.
Yeah.
Because I've always been thinking a lot about schools keeping students busy for really no result. Like everybody's arguing, we're so busy, we cannot add anything more. If you look at any program, universities are the same way, right? If you want to add anything, oh, we're so busy, you know. But actually, how busy are you? Also the effectiveness, like Punya was talking about sit time. You sit there for 50 minutes. Really, what are you doing in the 50 minutes? Are you focused? Are you learning anything? Most of them probably is useless now with AI stuff. So I've written about that, but I've also been talking about small time zones. So the other article, if you want, you can find on my writing. It's open access article. It's really I was just having fun with that, just to say, I said, if we are in America, if there's rural schools showing the data, or maybe their test scores are already very low, you can't get improve anyway, or maybe they're already very high, you cannot improve anyway. So, but there's not much difference.
So if I was a dean, the first thing I'd put in order was to delete, no one's allowed to use three words, busy, nice, and good.
Yeah, yeah.
Kindergarten kids are busy doing worksheets. If you're a faculty member, you shouldn't be busy every day, or you're not going to amount to much. You haven't done anything. Just if you're walking by your fellow faculty saying, "Oh, I'm busy today," what have you done? I mean, really, do you want to really psychologically feel like every day is a busy day? You want to be, you might be time bound. Your plate might be full, but you want to be engaged in the moment of what you're doing something that's meaningful, you're passionate about, and that's part of who you are, your being, your identity, and so forth. I don't think one wants their identity to be a busy being. Then it's nothingness. It's nothing. It's just you haven't done anything from my standpoint. um, we could go on and on about that, but anyways, I have deleted that word from my vocabulary about 15 years ago. It is hard not to say the word. It is really, really,
Oh,
really
the word
difficult.
busy?
It is busy. Yeah. I'll write a
Yeah.
book on that someday, maybe. I don't know. Or it might start a book someday with that. Yeah, busy, nice, and
Yeah,
good.
but I think the insight around time is really good. And I really like, Kurt, what you said about that what you're creating are events or happenings. And I think that that's the piece that's sort of missing. Like, like each class should be a happening. People should be excited to come in. The other thing that I've done is in this class is I have this radical transparency, so what everything that is done in class by everybody is visible to everybody. The only thing that they have an option to keep private for the instructor is a final reflection paper that they write about their experience, because they might want to complain about somebody or something. And that one they can choose to not make public. But everything else is completely public. And I write an email to them every Sunday, which is like my reflections on the day, the past day, and what's coming up. And I will, last one, for instance, I started with saying that there were two things that bothered me about the last class. And one was that I designed the discussion, I over designed it, and it was a disaster, and you guys salvaged it. So thank you for that. The other thing that bothered me is that I feel like we are not developing really well as a community. Some people didn't show up to class and they never even sent an email saying that they won't make it. That's not how we behave. There were a couple of other things that happened which like disappointed me, and I hope we can do better. And so it's a very honest letter that goes out. I don't think they're ready for something like this. And when the first one they got, but that's now a thing. And so I'm trying to build something there. And I'm very clear that we're going to see each other for 15 weeks and we may never see each other again.
You know,
So let's make this 15 weeks something that is meaningful. Why are we
special.
spending
You're
hours
making
of
it
our life
special.
getting together if we don't really care about it?
Yeah.
So let's care. That's it. I want you to care. Whether you learn or not, that I don't know. I can't control that. But let's care for each other. Let's put in the effort. Let's put in the hours, put in the miles, and then we'll see. Let's
And
have a good
share
time.
the discoveries that they're making.
Yeah,
And they're
it's
exploring
this.
a new AI tool. Hey, why don't you not just tell me, share it with everybody,
Yeah.
even
So
if you haven't fully learned it, put it out there and have us,
yeah, yeah,
see what's
it's
out there.
okay. And I share like garbage stuff I'm playing with. I'm like, oh, yesterday I got sort of intrigued. So I'm working now on
Mhm.
vibe coding a website which is called Correlation is Causation. And I'm finding data from different sources to show that watching Netflix is what caused child births to drop.
I
You
think that
know?
makes great sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think correlation is cause oh that makes huge sense.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's really funny finding like Nicolas Cage movies have caused something like fires in Australia or something like that. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's just a goofy website, but I can do it using, Claude and ChatGPT or some combination of it in one afternoon on Sunday. And it's an instructional tool now that anybody who's teaching statistics can use,
Yep.
but it's
So I'm in,
fun and it's silly. And so I'm doing it so that I can share it with them on Thursday saying, hey, I built this on Saturday. And
yeah.
then what is your excuse for not completing your project if I can do this on one Saturday?
Well, I think
So Young,
really
I'll build on this in a minute. Hang on. So, last semester in the class, they had all these visiting scholars. I had one thread that was AI augmented and one thread was human to human. And the students are a little hesitant about going to AI augmented, but it's really interesting and fascinating to read because it was almost a little too expected and boring and soulless in the AI. But last week I was responding to students. I didn't have an answer for one of their questions, so I just put it into ChatGPT, Chat PDF. I got it. Here's what AI said, and let's talk about that. So as a way to incidentally embed AI in the course, as an extra participant. I'm sorry, Young. Go
no,
ahead.
Kurt, I was going to say this. I sent you the link to the Time article. It's
Yeah.
a short article, but I was really because both of you were talking about students doing something. So in my teaching, in all my thinking, I've always said, okay, are you really interested or do you have to take this course? I mean, really, so if you are really interested, let's do some learning. If you just have to take the course, I don't even care much. I said, even with PhD students, I was ask, do you just want to get a degree? Or
Yeah,
are you really, do you really want to do research and PhD? I think we need to, like especially for undergraduate students who have to take a course
I
from
know.
I don't teach undergraduates. But if you teach undergrads, they have to take a course. If they have no really interest, they find it's meaningless. I mean, it's very hard to force them to do something because if you force them to do something, they still don't learn anything, right? If
Yeah,
you now,
right.
especially with AI, so I mean, like, what are you gonna do? So I really think schools have to truly allow students a lot more choices. You have to give them more choices. But of course, students, even PhD students, still think they have to take a course and they have to please the professor to get A's. I've had a practice for a long time. I tell students, I said, you don't come here to earn grades. You all get A's. How's that? And if you, by the end of the class, if you think you don't deserve an A, you can tell me. I'll be happy to give you a C or F. And I said, I said, I assume you are all getting A's. So don't
Yeah.
worry
No, I
about
mean,
getting grades.
I told this to a student last time, first day of class. This person asked me, like, what's your grading policy? I said, if you're here for an A, you don't need to ever show up in class again. Consider that you have the A.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh,
If
but if
that's why you are
you feel
here,
like you don't deserve it, I can reduce it for you.
yeah. But
Actually, in the end, I ask students, do you think what do you deserve? Actually, we discuss in public. What do you think you deserve to have?
Yeah.
And actually we have discussion about it.
Yeah. No, I think the other thing apart from time, I think is it's almost like an paternalistic or approach by us and an infantilization of the student,
Yeah,
right? And rather than treating them as full blown people. So that's why I feel very comfortable in calling out things that I feel is like, no, this is not how we should be. What do you think? That's
yeah.
fine, right?
So my first semester as a professor in 1989 in the fall, I went to the first faculty meeting. Sheldon Baker stands up. He says, I told all my students, you're all getting A's. Now let's get to work. This is the way it's going to be. We had B.F. Skinner's daughter and husband on the other side, the behaviorist, and he was one of the humanists. It was interesting watching the interactions. Anyhow, thinking about the old days. But yeah, that's the way I teach too. This semester, I started with that notion. You're all getting A's. Now let's get to
Yeah.
work.
But I think asking students to assess themselves is
Right.
really interesting.
It
Actually,
is.
asking them to say, what do you think you should get?
Yeah.
What do
Yeah.
you think of your ideas? What do you have you made much improvement? So that's actually quite interesting. Another thing I was, well, Curt, you were talking about 1989. I remember my first conference was coming to your conference when you were organized that thing in Bloomington. That was
1995.
what is that 95?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, you have that book you
CSCL,
printed.
Computer Supported Collaborative Learning, 1995.
So actually, I want to ask you, since this is a host reflection,
That's 30
since
years.
1995 is 30 years, what do you think you've learned?
Yeah, and it was October 1995, I believe, right?
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
almost exactly 30 years. What
Well, I
have I?
drove from UIUC, Urbana-Champaign to Bloomington. But anyway, so I was asking you the question. You run that conference, where did those ideas go?
The book from that conference I used for a long time. That was a great book. It was kind of almost like Seymour Papper's constructionism book, which got a lot of use as well. But that proceedings, the people that came, like Marcia Lynn from Berkeley, uh,
Well,
folks
I came
from
as a grad student, so I
you
didn't
came
know who
from
else came.
Illinois. A lot of people came from many places. Well done. I mean, we held it in the IU Memorial Union, but it was really a kind of
I don't remember anything other than Curt Bonk.
yeah, because I gave a plenary session. That was my first plenary session ever. And, since then I've had, hundreds of keynotes and whatnot. So I remember it well. It was building up to my book, the Electronic Collaborators book that came out in 1998. So that was an early version of the research that we were doing on computer asynchronous computer mediated discourse analysis. Neo-Vygotskian look at computer mediated discourse was that presentation or whatever. But everything was interesting there because we had basically the cognitive people were meeting, the constructivistic people were meeting the social constructivists at that event, looking at how technology can enhance the social cultural discourse in and among students in the early days of the web. That wasn't pre-web, but it was year 4 of the web, basically. 1995. So there wasn't a
Well, so
lot
this is like the year 3 of AI. So if you compared that change to this change, what do you think?
every day in 1995 was a new event. I go down to our Teaching and Learning Center office every day to talk to a guy named John Savory, who's one of the pioneers in problem-based learning. And we look at what was new on the web that day. I mean, there's so few things that you could find on the web. Every day we could just, oh, here's one new thing, like the World Lecture Hall out of UT Austin. Oh, that's pretty cool. But what do we find the next day? And we've been sharing one-off events. And so similar things are happening with AI. Different tools are coming out with AI, and we go, oh, this is a new AI. Well, what can I do with this? Oh, here's what I can do. So it's similar in that regard, but it's a little bit too tool focused,
So
instead of,
I'll tell you what has changed in me.
yeah.
Huge change. And that has to do with an optimism about individuals and small groups and a deep pessimism about larger organizations, communities, and society. And I just recently wrote a blog post about this where there's an article that one of these, one person I know, she does work in India and she goes down to this village in Orissa, which is a place called Khurda. It's not a village, it's like a town, big town, let's say, right? And she spends a lot of time with kids there and what they are learning. And what she finds is that they get like 2 hours or 3 hours of YouTube, and all they're learning is extremely, what shall I say, Hindu, fascist, anti Muslim, rewriting of Indian history to the point that when she goes to class and she reads the textbooks which give the history, she doesn't believe that. And so the impact of the decisions of a few people sitting in Silicon Valley to have that long finger about that we will not monitor, we will not engage, we will not, we won't bother about gatekeeping and so on, and we will care only about engagement, which automatically means more extreme content, more whatever. We're seeing the effects of that here in this country, but the fact that it goes down to the level of a village or a town in India is crazy, right?
So you mean the people in that village are learning?
They're learning history through rabidly right-wing Hindu YouTube channels.
Ah, okay, okay.
Okay. And so what I'll drop the link there because I've been this is the part where I'm extremely pessimistic about AI because that's what I write in that is that at least in this case I can go find the YouTube channel. I can write a note to YouTube and I'd say, hey guys, look at this garbage that this person is putting out. Can you put some guardrails? What are your policies? Blah blah blah. And something can be done. Now you have something like Grok, which is the mind meld of Elon Musk, right? It is calling itself Mecha Hitler. It is picking up garbage from X and saying things like that. Yeah, there are arguments that could be made for white supremacy. So now the conversation that I have with Grok, Zhao, you have no way of knowing. You see, because it's a one-on-one conversation. And you will, and then going back to the work that we started doing, Stone Age Mind, which is like come back full circle for me now, right? And so you're going to form relationships with these things. It's going to be one on one. It's going to be controlled by some system prompt somewhere, which somebody sitting in Silicon Valley can jigger because of their own wackiness. And there could be a left wing version of it, there could be a right wing version of it. Either way, it's going to be manipulative. And so, if we think that social media has disrupted the cultural and political discourse and separated us from each other, this is going to make it infinitely worse. So that's what has a big change in me from let's say 95 2000 till 2025 is deeply deeply pessimistic about the long-term social impact of these technologies. And I think my blog post is called like, while we were looking elsewhere. So we were doing stupid little studies about, oh, does using, a male avatar make a difference to boys learning versus girls learning? While the brains were, being like totally being caught up by other garbage. So
Well,
that's
Punya,
that's the
I've
change.
had this view like yours for a long time. I've always said individual human beings are
I
smart.
know.
As a species, it's quite stupid. I
Yep.
was talking to a Catholic educator from Australia. He actually wrote a blog post based on my conversation. I said human beings as a species are more stupid than pigs. Because most animals learn not to do it again, but human beings always commit the same mistake. I mean, look at a dog and a pig. If they get burned by some, they won't do it again. But human
Yeah.
beings are always repeating the same
Same thing.
mistakes. Don't
Same.
you feel like as a species?
No, I mean, read that blog post. I mean, serious. I mean, that's the change that's happened in me, and between let's say 2008 or so, where I stood, there's a huge difference between the Punya of 2006, 7, 8, and the Punya of let's say, I think I started shifting quite significantly around 2016, 17. If I look at some of my talks and writings, and now it's completely like and that article, if you want that article, it's behind a paywall. Let me know. It's really worth reading. and
Shifting
Well, I
towards
like
what?
your
You're
art.
shifting towards what
oh,
after?
I spend more time on those stupid art than I do on writing the piece.
You've always done that, you know.
I
So
know, I know.
that's the
No,
you've
that's my
always spent more time tweaking the letter, how it looks, than in writing the
exactly.
letter.
That's 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 my zen. That's my meditation.
You know, that's what how human beings are driven by what they care, you know. Like I
Yeah,
don't even care look at how they look. But Punya spends hours and hours make sure it looks nice, you know.
yeah. No, it
I
looks right to
know
me.
what nice means, you know.
Yeah,
But
no, looks no, no. It's a complete subjective call.
by the way, by the Punya, I have to thank you, Curt. The background you made, I have earned so many people say, you have a great background. That was wonderful. As that's a friend who made it for me before Mid Journey. Remember that this was
Oh,
this,
this is completely made by like using, I think, open source Creative Commons images and then the typography I put in.
but it's still by hand, right? I mean, you
Yeah,
made
yeah, yeah, yeah. This
yeah.
is not no AI, and this was
So
hard.
I'm keeping this. But anyway, I've got so many people says,
Oh,
how
that's
did that,
awesome.
you know, it's not AI, it's actually a guy named Punya Mishra made it. But anyway, so that's different.
Oh, my name is in the corner.
It is, you know.
Yeah, oh, I didn't even remember I put it there.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
That's funny.
anyway, so but actually, what you are talking about is I think this is another issue we've never dealt with in our discussion. How do you develop AI literacy, whatever that means? Because people, I think many countries are trying to teach AI literacy. I am not sure you can actually, there is one package of AI literacy that you can deliver to students, then they will be good. I'm not sure that can happen, actually.
So we should talk about this whole AI literacy business. I think that any literacy about any technology, which is about the technology, is missing the point. The the only way forward is by knowing ourselves, our cognitive biases, our blind spots, our limitations. That's what is being taken advantage of, right? And the only way to inoculate against it is be eternal vigilance is the price of freedom. That's the model we have to follow. All the models are like, oh, like AI, like it does this, it does like that doesn't matter. The moment I start chatting with this thing, I'm psychologizing it. I'm doing all these kinds of things. It's manipulating me. I don't even realize that I'm being manipulated unless I am always critically self-aware. So it really is AI, like literacy has to be about learning about yourself, not necessarily about the medium as much as yourself. That's what
Well,
I've been
that
arguing.
comes to another issue, which I have been trying to fight against, is what I call uh, governments. Governments, any government, when it has too much power, it can be overly powerful. It controls. You know, governments regulate all the systems. Governments controls the systems. If you go to China, governments, you know, let different kind of AI tools to show up to do different things. I don't know about India. By the point, are there any native AI large language models coming out of India?
I think so. I'm not sure entirely. I'm not entirely sure. I'm
But
sure
the
that
mode, but the Indian government doesn't control the content.
Oh, I'm sure they will. They control. India is one of the countries where the most blocks of like Twitter accounts, of YouTube channels happens based on government saying shut it down, and it's shut down. And so you might be a newspaper or something. You'll still be visible to everywhere in the world, except it won't be visible to anybody in India.
Well, that's happening in the US too, right? Curt,
Yep.
in a few years, maybe Indiana will have its own version of AI, you know.
Well, it's not just that, and that's a sensitive topic here at IU. Again, I took down a Facebook post I made. It was harmless, but I just don't want to deal with it personally. I was also sent an email a week ago that I'm going to have a post-tenure review on me. So, you know, that's happening too here in this state. Faculty are being subjected to post-tenure reviews and not looking at our entire career since we got they're starting with the older people, more established people. They're just want the last 5 years. They're not looking at all 23 years I've been a full professor. They just want the last 5 years. So it's like, some people, it takes a historian 5 years to come up with a book that's, So it's forcing faculty to be always working on the latest thing. It's forcing a culture where it's a what have you done for me lately, not what have you done for me in your career. What have you done? And it's just forcing people to think about, okay, what's an easy journal to publish in? And I'll just put something out there and have something a tick box, a quantitative measure of who I am and what I've done. It's taking away from the creative craft of being academic, moving us towards a factory model of academia. And that's problematic to say the least, and that's
So,
happening right here, not just
all
in
right.
Florida, not just in Texas.
No, it's happening
Here,
everywhere. It's everywhere.
but in particular, three
Yeah.
states, maybe North Carolina be a fourth state, but three,
What? Three states.
Texas, Florida, and Indiana. We are now a southern state here.
Yeah. So, I mean, we see the same thing. I mean, that's another conversation altogether about watching President Crow and how astute he is uh, in navigating these things. It's actually quite impressive,
Yeah.
very impressive to watch that. But I'm looking at the time. We have 7 minutes left. We'll take a minute, I think, at the end to have Curt, I think, introduce the next show. So since we were all doom and gloom till now, I'm going to ask each of us to talk a little bit about what's making you happy. What's keeping you going? What's fun in life right now? So, Zhao, I'll start with you for no particular reason.
Well, I'm kind of giving up educational ideas because I'm trying to write a book now. Because I don't think, no matter how good educational ideas are, they're subject to economics and politics. That's really what I'm writing the book. So I was reading a book, Ernie book by Peter Dow, talk about schoolhouse politics, lessons from the Sputnik era. That was published many 1991, many years ago. He was describing a project, an actual curriculum created by Jerome Bruner, and was very popular. Used it's called MAKOS in a man. That's a very nice program. And but then died, of course, and so it was really interesting. So I think no matter how good your educational ideas are, they are subject to politics and they're subject to finance, money, and political requirements. So now I'm trying to understand schools. Do schools need to exist, or does education have to live in a different way? We talk about a grammar of schooling. People wants to change it. I say it's probably you won't be able to change it. If it's grammar of schooling, once you change the grammar, schooling doesn't exist anymore. So if you want a different grammar, you better have speak a different language. So that's what I'm trying to work on, and that
Okay,
makes me happy just to imagine the new
good.
possibilities. Because anywhere you go, you know, uh, government or governmental agencies control this. I mean, this section, another a group of people tried to interview me, talk about education. I said, if you represent an organizations like UNESCO, OECD, they come up with the worst education ideas because it's a committee.
Yeah,
Once you have a
exactly.
committee, you agree you have to compromise. I said, there's no good ideas. And then people follow them. I said, wow, how
It
stupid can
it
that be?
becomes
I mean,
a camel, right? It's a horse designed by a committee.
exactly. Did you notice that, we follow UNESCO? I said, what does UNESCO know? I mean, really, if you think, what does OECD know? They don't. They just get a bunch of people, their friends, and have some few cigars and perhaps some whiskey and sit there and chat and say, oh, yeah, you agree. Yeah, sure, we do this. And then they write a document and publish it. I said, no, those don't represent the best ideas. But anyway, so I can go on.
You went back to ranting about what you don't like, but what we will hold in mind is that you're thinking of this book, which is thinking of education very differently, and that's keeping you happy. Awesome sauce. All right, Kurt, what's up with you? What's keeping you happy?
So
Headphones are keeping
this
you happy. That's good.
this is keeping me happy because I listen to books when I run. I just listen to Mark Twain, and it's a good book by Ron Chernow. Ron Chernow is one of my heroes. Written great books. This is not one of them. Okay, it's not a fantastic book. It's a good book. but it loses something in its length. 44 odd hours listening to it, and it still doesn't discuss a lot of things, questions that one has. So yeah, I'm gaining a lot from audio. So I got Sirius radio in my car, but it's also on my phone. It's also on my TV. So I have all these options that exist with me at a very low cost to get any sports channel, whether it's basketball, football, baseball, at any time on radio while I'm working. And I put the pause on, I work for a bit, I can turn it back on. I feel like I'm back home listening to Bob Uecker. Now he's dead, unfortunately. Milwaukee Brewer baseball, which is fantastic. So, I'm finding that Sirius FM or whatever that is was too expensive in the old days, 10 years ago, 20, but I find it really worthwhile. I have so many options to learn, but it's sports, of course, but it's still learning. And then same with audiobooks. I'm just getting one audiobook after another audiobook. This one I've got Abundance by that
Ezra Klein.
Ezra
Ezra
Klein.
Klein.
It's good. It's really insightful. That guy's a brilliant guy. Speaks too fast, but it's a brilliant book. So I'm finding audio to be the tool or mechanism for my professional development, and Sirius FM just to give you options in life and
Cool.
ignore all the shit that's happening out there in the greater world. Pardon my French, but it makes me feel so good to say, oh, okay, I'll just switch over to here. I want to listen to Zen music today. I want to listen to music for plants. There's a channel called Music for Plants. I'm like, wow,
Yeah, when I want to vegetate, music for plants. I love it.
Yeah, chill is a channel. Of course, chill instrumental, chill this, chill that. So for people I like new age music. For people like new age, kind of soft, chilling, there's like 50 options, and they're wonderful options.
Cool.
It
All
brings
right.
me back. It just grounds me. I'm grounded
looking at the
through
time here.
audio. Sorry.
So no, that's good.
What about you, Punya? You gotta say in this 30 seconds.
Yeah. No, I am really enjoying sort of my creative partnership with AI. So I will do things like I will make typographical designs, and then Claude and I will come up with some kind of a poetic response to it, and we will discuss it, and I will edit it. Final say is mine. Then I will weave it back into the composition, and it becomes this piece of art, which I'm actually quite happy with. I can send you guys a link. It's actually it's a lot of fun. So at the personal level, that's been very exciting. And then of course this class and all I'm teaching, that's fun. But I'll send you guys a link to I made a YouTube video with this typography. Watch it on a big screen. It's really good. And
Well,
it's
send us the link. Perhaps this is the most casual episode of all our conversations. Okay.
This is great though. This was fun.
Yeah.
This is fun.
All right,
Curt, tell us what's coming up.
I just have to add one thing here. If I don't mention, I'll feel bad. John and Paul Love Stories. Get the book. It's really great. It's brand new. Gets through the Beatles' history. John Lennon, Paul McCartney is
Nice.
just a great book. Okay, next week. What do we have for next week? We take off for a place where Punya used to work, where Young used to work, because we're heading to Michigan for Talent Together with a person who got her degree at Indiana, Sharina Shrivers, Executive Director of Talent Together. She'll bring her colleagues along to hear about how teacher candidates get free education while earning an income. They offer flexible pathways that center on each teacher candidate's needs. So that's next week at our time, noon Eastern time on Saturday.
All right. Well, I will miss that one, but look forward to watching it later. And be good, guys. This was fun.
Thank you. Set up a new tone for this show. Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye-bye. It's
See ya.
been great